If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Go. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson. Now, every day from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Did we mention you can watch us at YouTube and KSLSports.com? And we're going to talk to Ryan S. Clark of ESPN. He covers the NHL. And we're looking to get him on the video link, Ben. New modern technology, so you'll get to not only absorb Ryan, but you could watch him too. If
however you absorb. Alex Jensen was on the video link earlier with Scotty and the coach. So I thought that was very cool. Nice of the coach to jump on the air link. Very cool.
Well, he's probably a technologically savvy guy. Aren't most assistant coaches, and Alex was an assistant for a long time, I'm sure they're pretty tech because it makes their job way easier. Yeah. Remember, I'm sure like Coach Lacombe probably can tell you about cutting up actual tape. Yeah.
Reel to reel.
Actually cutting up tape. I'm sure every technological advancement assistant coaches are like, yeah, let's implement that. Is that not cutting tape? Okay, let's do that. Okay, joining us now, yes, on the video link, very excited about it, covers the NHL for ESPN.com. He's Ryan S. Clark with us here on Jake and Ben. Hey, Ryan, what's going on?
How's everyone?
Yeah,
there we go.
We're great, Ryan. And, Stanley Cup playoffs are kind of new to this market, new to Salt Lake City. And, man, people are jacked up. People are bummed today, of course, and we can talk about the minutia of the series. But NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, huge hit here in Salt Lake City.
No, look, it's not a surprise because, even when you think about what the team was doing before they relocated to Salt Lake, they were building one of the better farm systems in the NHL. And so, not to get too nerdy right now, but Daryl Plandowski, who's the director of amateur scouting for the Mammoth, he was one of the people that helped build the Tampa Bay Lightning into the Goliath they are now. And so the thought is, if you can get Plandowski, and more importantly, you can get the infrastructure around them, who's to say what that might become? And now what you're seeing with what he's done, the trades that Bill Armstrong has made, is a team that right now with the Mammoth, whether it be this year, next year, or maybe the year after, they're one of those teams that can really help challenge sort of the power dynamic in the Western Conference, because we've seen the same four teams the last whatever. But when you look at Utah, you look at Anaheim, think about what San Jose could be. It's certainly an interesting time in the league, and Utah's coming in at a very fascinating time.
Ryan, I do get the sense that, and I felt this last night, that the honeymoon is over. There was a real honeymoon period. Of course there was. Nobody cared that they didn't make the playoffs last year. It was their first season here. They didn't even have an official name yet. Then they get the mascot, they get the name. We've got a Mammoth in state now all of a sudden. And I think people are ready for this team to start winning. So let me ask you, you have a sense of their timeline. You're talking about the young players that they've got. When is it fair to start expecting, a playoff series win? When should they have the talent to be able to accomplish these types of things and compete more?
Well, in a perfect world, you could argue right now, but it may be a year or 2 years from now. It might be longer, because let's take the LA Kings as a really good example. The LA Kings haven't won a first-round series in more than a decade. The last time they won a first-round series, it was when they won the Stanley Cup. And so they go through this rebuild. You still keep Drew Doughty and Andrei Kopitar as these foundational pieces, but then you go out and build what was one of the NHL's more promising farm systems. And so you've made that baseline of becoming a perennial playoff team. The issue is you run into the Goliath that is the Edmonton Oilers for 4 straight years. You get knocked out in the first round. Some cases it was 5 games, other cases it's been 7. Last year they had a 2-0 lead, and the next thing you know, they lose 4 straight. Not like this year was any easier because they get the Colorado Avalanche, who finished with the best record in the league. But it is to say that it can take time. And so while people might have these expectations of when it should happen, the hard part is other organizations also have expectations. So let's take a look at another series that's going on in the West right now between Dallas and Utah. Dallas is trying to get back to a 4th straight Western Conference final. not Utah, excuse me, Dallas and Minnesota.
Right.
The Minnesota Wild, they have not been out of the first round in a very long time. Again, more than a decade. And they're now one win away from doing something that just hasn't been done, again, in a really long time. It's not to say that this season is a success or a failure if they do or don't win the series, but it's just, it illustrates that's how hard it is to win in this game. But more importantly, that's how hard it is to win in the Western Conference at this moment in time.
The Mammoth have had all these third period leads that they've ended up blowing, including, of course, obviously last night. And people are trying to diagnose that maybe as the sign of the team being young. Would you agree with that?
It's a little bit of youth, but it's also just more about how many of these moments have they been in. And so that's less about age, but just more about the group as a whole. And so when this team got built and you're bringing in the Sergachevs of the world, the Schmitz of the world, the Ian Coles, the Tanevs, those sorts of players, like those are players that have had postseason experience. In the case of Ian Cole and Mikhail Sergachev, like they have won multiple Stanley Cups, and there's something to be said for that. Whereas if you look at Vegas, even for all the changes it has gone through, number one, you still have a head coach that has not only won a cup, but has gone several rounds deep in the multiple playoff series throughout his career. But then a chunk of the core of that team is still in place that won the cup. So like Eichel is still there. Theodore is still there. Mark Stone is still there. Keegan Colasar, who's one of those bottom six players, is still there. And so, while yes, they've definitely lost players over time, there is a familiarity that they can call back to and say, we know what it's like to be down one game or two games. We know what it's like to be up two games. We know what it's like to be in overtime. And things like that do help this time of year. And it's not saying that Utah can't overcome that, but it is to say that the Golden Knights have gone through this. So there's a sense of memories they could draw from. Whereas if Utah, there's certain players on that team who can do it, but there is something to be said for players who've done it elsewhere versus the core that's doing it right there in the moment.
The Mammoth don't have true superstars on their roster right now. And, you look around some of the obvious big names around the NHL, and I'm not sure you would consider any of the Mammoth players that. Even, Clayton Keller, who's made several All-Star games and was in the Olympics, etc. Does a Logan Cooley or a Dylan Guenther, and I don't want to talk necessarily about the guys who are in the minors that haven't come up yet, but does anyone on this roster scream like, hey, they could get to that point, they could become a face of the franchise that's that level of player?
Oh, God, absolutely. Because, you said Clayton Keller, but let's go back to Mikhail Sergachev. Like, the reality of Mikhail Sergachev is he's a defenseman that does a lot, but you're looking at defensemen in this era where, because of Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, Lane Hudson, we're expecting defensemen to score more than 70 to 80 points a year. Like, it's an unrealistic expectation for everyone, but that's just sort of where we're at. And that all started with guys like Erik Karlsson in terms of this modern iteration of defensemen. So you do have that. He may not be someone that you always see on commercials or out in front of, compared to other players, but he does exist. Clayton Keller is another. There is a thought that Logan Cooley could be that, but when you look at Dylan Guenther, it seems like if you had to put, let's say, some sort of, expectation on someone who could be that, it might be Dylan Guenther more than Logan Cooley. And not so much because it's a talent thing, because they're both immensely talented, but let's just look at where the Western Conference alone is when it comes to superstar centers. There are two guys in Edmonton for now. There's Nathan McKinnon. There's Leo Carlsson out in Anaheim. And there's this guy out in San Jose that people think could be the face of the league going forward if he's not already there. And that's already five players that you could look at as being superstars or close to superstars. Jack Eichel is another one. So, if you're looking at centers, you have to be at that level. And Logan Cooley could get there, but it might take time. God, that's not even taking the fact that Connor Bedard is also there. So, again, that is 8 centers. That's a lot. Whereas if you look at superstar wingers, and those wingers do exist, but at the same time, the way Dylan Guenther plays, the fact that people are just now getting used to him, if Utah keeps winning and he keeps putting up these 30, 40, possibly, let's say, 50-goal seasons, he's going to get attention. Because if you look at him versus, let's say, someone like Kyle Connor in Winnipeg, Kyle Connor, you could argue, is the best scorer who probably doesn't get a lot of mainstream attention. And some of that is just by virtue of, hey, he plays in Winnipeg. Whereas if playing in a place like Salt Lake and playing in a state like Utah, people will get attention. Let's not forget, this is the same state that one year produced an NFL and an NBA first number 1 pick in both years. This is the same state that put out Stockton and Malone. Like, this is the same state that when you look at what's going on in Provo, they might have the number one pick in the NBA draft. Like, people care immensely about what goes on in Utah, but more importantly, Utah has a history of showing that stars can come from here. And so if you're Dylan Gunther and you're the Mammoth, like, there's a possibility for that to exist, whether it's with him, Logan Cooley, or someone else.
The Mammoth are really struggling with the power play. Well, special teams in general, but really the power play. Whose responsibility usually is that? If something's not going right with special teams unit, is that usually a coaching thing? Is that a player thing? And in this particular circumstance, what do you make of the Mammoth struggling so badly in that area?
So it could be a coaching thing, but could also be a personnel thing, but could also be the fact that what Vegas has done in the postseason and when it comes to the PK, they've gotten historically better, but now you're looking at a different coaching approach with John Tortorella that was different than Bruce Cassidy. So it could be a culmination of all those different things. So like, let's start with personnel. The personnel that you have on first team power play would be what? Cooley, Schmaltz, Keller, Gunther, and Sergachev. So that's a good mix of skill. It's a good mix of size. Now, yes, is there a conversation of maybe do you adjust some things so that way when you're in those low slot areas, you have maybe like a bigger body like a Lawson Krause who's down there? Potentially, maybe, who's to say? But some of it too is if you look at the way that Vegas is built, they have enough two-way forwards who, they're really good at playing this aggressive style, which takes away time and space, even though they're skated down. But also, what Vegas does on defense is they've had a lot of size. That's been one of the hallmarks of why they've been so successful the last 4 or 5 years, especially when it comes to trying to win Stanley Cups, is they have a level of size that they can just use to create problems. But then again, it also goes back to what John Tortorella has done. And so that's just it. It's like, these are things that are going to happen in the postseason. It's what makes the need to score an even strength, or even we could take advantage of those power play chances more important. So yes, maybe you could argue it's a coaching challenge. Maybe you could argue it's a personnel challenge. You could also argue it's how do you find a way to solve for what the Golden Knights have been able to do? Because remember, like, you're talking about a team that not only has that championship pedigree, but you now have a head coach in place who's maybe able to see and do some things that are different that people haven't quite figured out those tendencies just yet.
What, Ryan, and maybe just ask, is there a traditional team building strategy that we see across the NHL? Like, I know that the Wild had Kaprizov, and then they went out and were very aggressive to get Quinn Hughes to, like, take that next step, get out of the first round, like you were mentioning. A team like the Mammoth that is young and still has guys coming up through the minors like Tisha Ginla and like Denoyer. Is it traditional to just kind of let them develop into the system, or are teams usually aggressive when they have young players like that and a pretty good team already of, trading to skip steps, bring in a more proven player?
So it's all dependent upon situation, but let's say it's a 70-30 split, 70 being you let the youth and your development model take its course with the idea that there will come a point when you have to go out and get those sort of players. And so the example you just brought up was the Minnesota Wild, and it's a great example. Yes, people see Kaprizov, but that's a process that started in terms of homegrown, going back to someone like Jared Spurgeon. Granted, Brock Faber was drafted by the Kings. They acquired him in a trade, but they did play a part in his development. Matt Boldy is another player. Jesper Wallstedt, who's been their star rookie goalie, who's looked really strong this postseason, is another example of that. Jonas Verdeen is another example of that. But then it's when you start going out and you bring in the Matt Zuccarellos, the Marcus Folignos. Like, yes, those are older acquisitions in terms of the time that they've been there, but they've helped you establish your culture and foundation. So that way, when you draft the Kaprizovs of the world and then you start bringing in the Quinn Hughes, like, that's the way you're able to bring in the Quinn Hughes of the world, because like, you were able to trade 3 of your homegrown players, 2 of which were first rounders. I believe Liam Ogren was a second or third rounder. And you also parted with a first round pick to make it happen. Like, that is the way teams are trying to win in this league. Like, everybody looks at Vegas and they're the outlier because, again, they just haven't had the time to really build the farm system other teams have. But when you look at the way the Colorado Avalanche won, and there's a discussion to be had about what they've done from the second round on, but the bulk of that core were all first round talents. You look at, let's say, what other teams like Tampa has done. Tampa built those championships by being so strong through the draft and undrafted free agents. So like, those things do play a part and they do matter. Like, yes, you can go the Vegas or the Florida model where like you're able to bring in help from the outside and you're able to, identify people who work within your system. But what Utah is doing, what San Jose is doing, what Anaheim is doing, what Chicago is doing, like, there's a reason people keep doing this. It's because it's been proven to be the most effective or one of the most effective ways to win long term.
Ryan, I'm curious. You obviously cover the league for ESPN, and the league has been back on the worldwide leader since 2021, somewhere in there. I'm curious, what do you think has been the impact of the league returning to ESPN?
This is a little bit of a difficult question to ask. No one told me about this. No, but to be serious, it's really about visibility more than anything, because if you look at it from this standpoint, every league, including the NFL, is fighting for eyeballs, and you want to go where people are, because like if you look at the different entertainment options that exist for people, whether it be in sports or Netflix or Spotify or Apple or whatever your entertainment choices are, they're nearly endless. And while they're nearly endless, but you also have people who they have all the money in the world to play with. You have some people who don't have all the money in the world to play with. And so if you're one of those leagues who's trying to get attention and meet people at every price point, you want to go where people are. And if you have an opportunity to go get what you think is a television arrangement with a network that you feel has a very large reach, then by all means, you would go do it. It makes the most business sense. And so if you're the NHL or you're any other league, those are the things that you're looking at, because when we talk about these conversations of how everyone is trying to solve for this problem, it's something colleges are thinking about, pro teams are thinking about. It's the idea of like, how do you sell this new wave of fan, being millennials, being Gen Z, being Gen Alpha, on the idea of like, why do you want to watch a game when you can go do so many other things? And so if you're going to watch a game, how do you find a way to make it worth their time? And if you're the NHL, you're trying to do that, but get it in front of as many people as humanly possible.
Does it feel like the NHL is in a good spot?
It would seem so, yeah. But it also comes with the understanding, too, that let's think about the last time ESPN had the NHL. The landscape looked very different. Whereas if the world that we are in now, yes, there's the 4 major men's professional leagues, but like the WNBA is something a lot of people care about, NWSL and MLS. But even then, just the way soccer is taken off in this country, not even just with the domestic leagues, but like people care about the Premier League and La Liga and Bundesliga and Serie A and Ligue 1 in France and the Champions League and Europa League and the World Cup coming up. Like college football has grown exponentially. Like college basketball, men's and women, has grown exponentially. Formula One, and I say this as someone who's been a gearhead since they were 6 years old, like to go from a world where like you had to be the sicko who stayed up till like 4 a.m. to watch Suzuka, to now be at a point where people talk about this. Yeah, the NHL's in a good place, but it comes with the understanding of there's a lot of competition.
Well, Ryan, we couldn't thank you enough for coming on the show. This was a lot of fun conversation, and hopefully you won't mind if we bug you again.
Thanks for jumping on the video feed.
Hey, no problem. Feel free to have me back. Love Salt Lake, one of my favorite places, and the most underrated in and out in America is the one that's at the Centerville exit. So that's how serious I take Salt Lake City.
Wow, look at that. That
Ball
is
knower.
serious.
Yeah.
He knows that the better one of the locations in Utah. Well done, Ryan. Well done. Thank you very much.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Wow, I got to tell you, I've eaten at several In-N-Out locations, and I did not know that the Centerville one was top notch. Shout out to them.
Where does Ryan reside? Do we know? Okay, he's great. No, that was
really good
from Ryan. Yeah.
Once Christian decided to stop sabotaging the interview, I thought it went extremely well.
Just let him on the air, Christian. Next time, just let him jump on. We like having him.
He was really good.
I'll do better.
Thank you.
I know that people out there are thirsting for Ben and I to tread water. I know it's our best radio.
Yeah.
It really is. It's when we shine, when we have no idea what's going on. No, we're kidding, of course. I'm glad we got that straightened out. And it is really cool that he can jump on the video feed and have that up. That's awesome.
It's good stuff.
All right, stay tuned. We'll have more coming up next for you. The Bear, Andre Tourney, joins the show at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. Bill Oram at 4:30. Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Not only do these guys give you the best Jazz coverage in the market, they've got you covered with the Mammoth, the Cougars, the Utes, and the Aggies. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jacob in 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Big thanks to Ryan S. Clark of ESPN for jumping on with us in the last segment. We'll get that up online. If you just want to listen to it, if you only caught a portion of it, we'll get it up at kslsports.com so you can listen to it. All of our interviews and, of course, all of our shows end up downloadable for you, for our friends in the future who listen to the show via podcast. Ben, have you been to Philly? I've never been to Philly.
I have.
You like the town?
I was young, but yeah, it was cool.
Their fans have a rep, right? And I do love their fans rep.
Uh-huh.
They're mean, they're angry, the whole thing. They really lean into it. It goes overboard sometimes, but let me ask you this. The Jazz were not a great team over the past couple of years.
Correct.
But they've had players go to the Mammoth games, including Lowry was at last night's, right?
Yeah, with Ryan.
But when they show the Jazz players, even though the Jazz didn't have a great record, they showed them on the big screen. The reception was a warm one.
Yeah.
Did you see last night at the Flyers-Penguins game?
No.
Let's see. Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, and a couple other Phillies were at the game, and they showed them on the Jumbotron.
Booed?
Boos rained down upon the Phillies.
They had like wives and kids with them too.
Incredible. Do you think that would happen here? Or are there circumstances outside of like controversy? You know what I mean? Outside of law breaking or something. There's circumstances where like they put the Jazz or the Mammoth or somebody else on the Jumbotron and they'd boo. I guess some Jazz fans booed Jimmer.
Gordon Hayward.
No, but that's actually a player,
Yeah.
come to think of it, not like another team in town.
I don't think so. Again, it's not. We've talked about like how we do our radio show. If you do a radio show in Philly or Detroit or New York and some of these cities, you just hammer your teams. You just kill your teams. Not that we are not very critical of our teams, but they're artificially critical of their teams.
Because people like being mad.
Because people like being mad. So they build up only the negative because that's what's going to generate the most response. It's not authentic. It doesn't make it more authentic. It's just a different approach to how they do it. So, yeah, it's what they like. So they're going to boo the Phillies players.
And the Phillies are terrible. They're like 10-19, and they just fired their manager.
They've underachieved significantly this year. But they are still somehow better than the Mets, which is a very funny story.
Raining boos down. Do the Mets have they have the second highest payroll in Major League Baseball, right behind
The Dodgers.
behind the Dodgers?
10-21.
Okay, let me ask you this, and I would be curious
White Sox. My White Sox have a better record, which is such a bad sign.
I would be curious for our more, really seasoned hockey/NHL fans. Please weigh in on the call-in feature on the KSL Sports app. But we do have the Bear, Andre Torney, coming on with us at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. And the Phillies did fire their manager. And we've had a similar conversation to this over the years, Ben, and I'm curious to if you know or where this lands. But Major League Baseball managers do nothing. They don't have any impact on the game. They just sit there and scratch themselves for the most part. Like they decide a double switch, maybe they turn in the lineup. Mm-hmm. Like pitching coaches decide pitching changes now. I mean, the Major League Baseball manager does very little. And I'm not trying to insult baseball managers. It's just the nature of the game.
They're culture people.
There's not a whole lot for them to do. They don't have a whole lot of impact during the game. Mm-hmm. Some minor adjustments at best, but really they're not doing anything, right? Whereas college basketball coaches do everything. They're holding hands through every time down the flight. They're calling. They have a zillion timeouts so that they can dictate every movement of their players.
Yeah.
Making college basketball coaches pretty critical.
Yes.
Because they have so much control and they have so much impact.
Yeah.
Where do you think hockey coaches fall on that spectrum? Does that make sense? Like how much impact during a game does
so
a
this
coach
is really
in hockey have?
If you watch the Mammoth And if Bear comes on and wants to correct this, and I'm saying something wrong, he can. But watch so that you get one timeout a game, right, in the NHL. Watch when it's late in a game, especially if they like pull a goalie or it's a face-off, even if it's even strength, and they pull a goalie. Bear is not the one drawing up the play. They have an assistant that draws up the play. So to your point, I mean, it's almost an offensive coordinator who says this is the operation off the face-off. If we win the face-off in this direction, this is what we're trying to accomplish. That's not where even Bear steps in. So yes, I do think as you adjust lines within games, that certainly happens. You start to get a feel who's benching J.J. Peterka, those types of things. Bear has an impact there. I would say more than baseball, less than an offensive coordinator. Less than a basketball coach, certainly. But then again, I remember Krause, this was last year, and some people thought he was being chippy. Not chipper, but a little like hard on the writers. Talking to some of them. Not Cole, by the way. I want to make sure that that's clear. But as people were trying to get used to, like, do you run plays in hockey? Like, do you run an offense? And he had said just watch the game and you'll see what we're doing. You know what I mean? It was like, okay. But it's not, you probably have a big picture specific offense and concepts of what you want to accomplish, playing fast, slowing it down, and it has to adjust with the players you have. But no, I don't think it's like coming down the ice, what was Jerry Sloan's? Or Quinn Snyder was always like the box. You know what
Jerry
I mean?
Sloan, like 4 down.
Yeah, 4 down.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Quinn Snyder had his weird hand motions he was always doing.
Captain Jack, please.
Captain Jack always had his strange motions. Yeah, you're not doing that in hockey, obviously.
I just wonder. I mean, I think if Kentucky loses a game, barbecue Mark Pope away. But
Totally fair.
If why did I just go blank? The Dodgers manager,
Roberts? Is that his name?
Dave Roberts.
Dave
Yeah.
Roberts, yeah.
If the Dodgers blow a save in the ninth, that's not Dave Roberts' fault. Like,
Right.
It's not his responsibility. If you're
Right.
going to barbecue Roberts for his closer blowing a save in the ninth, that's ridiculous. But if Mark Pope loses a 2-point game down the stretch because his team can't execute, that's like directly his fault.
Yeah. Then the same point as the Mr. Burns drop we like to play. I also don't give Dave Roberts credit when Freddie Freeman hits a clutch home run every game.
1,000%.
Now, if this is a late DH that he's decided and said, I just have a feeling that this is the matchup we're looking for, maybe I'll give him a little bit more credit there. But no, you get to the heart of your lineup.
Even that, most of the time, it's what left-handed hitter do I have left?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
not even like a strategic. It's like you have 2 left-handed hitters on your bench. Who are you going to DH?
Yeah.
Give me the one hitting 229 instead of the guy hitting 217.
Yeah. Kirk Gibson, though, coming in injured.
Yeah, you're not giving Tommy Lasorda credit for that.
No, I will, because Tommy
Why?
Lasorda pulled him because Kirk Gibson, I think, was hurt the entire game and hadn't played, if I remember correctly, right? Isn't that the story? He's hurt.
And they played
And
him.
he comes into DH, and he's playing against Dennis Eckersley or batting
Well,
against
if anything,
Dennis
I'm
Eckersley.
blaming him for risking his player's health. I'm not
But
giving him
it
credit.
worked. He hit the home run. Like, it becomes one of the most famous home runs of all time. Maybe I'll say Lasorda had a sense that something good could happen. But yeah, Strawberry, you go out and hit that home run.
You, Strawberry, hit that home run. I told him to do that.
You, Strawberry, hit a home run.
Okay, Skip.
I told him to do that.
I would love to be a baseball manager.
Yeah.
It doesn't even need to be major league. Give me just a paying baseball manager. I mean, it really is like Tom Hanks in A League of Their Own. Or just stand up there and wave his little hat, and he's going to be passed out on the bench for the rest of the game. But in hockey, I don't know like how much responsibility. Now, I would bet if we asked the Bear how much responsibility he bears, he would probably tell you a lot.
Of course.
But is that really true? I mean, the people out there barbecuing Bear today, I mean, how much responsibility does he really have? And I'm asking this because I honestly would love to know somebody's educated opinion on the matter.
Some of it may be more so than, say, the NBA, where in-game adjustments are constant. And obviously there's in-game adjustments with the NHL as well. But I wonder if more of your work is done sharpening your axe versus cutting down the tree. You know, it's the preparation. It's what you're doing pregame. It is matching up those lines. It's adjusting those lines. It's figuring out where to play J.J. Peterka. It's figuring out if you're going with Tanev or Liam O'Brien tonight. It's those types of decisions that may be more impactful. Where in the NBA, everybody's playing.
Right.
You know, you never bring in your 12th guy. It's not a thing you do in the NBA unless it's a blowout, and it's pretty easy to avoid that. However, You need to recognize, hey, this action is working every single time we run it. Let's just keep running it. And you got to keep calling that play as the coach in the NBA, which obviously does not happen in the NHL.
No. But mid-game line adjustments, things like that, when to substitute. I mean, how important are those things? I come back to the last second substitution at the end of the third period.
Yeah.
You know, that is a decision, and that's not maybe the golden come I would buy as a direct result, but did that have something to do with it? Or was that just a strategy that doesn't pay off, which happens to coaches all the time?
And there are adjustments. They even talked about it last night on the broadcast you saw, which is, the Mammoth like to rotate their defensemen more than some other teams. They do play their top line defensemen a little bit less, their top pairing. Maybe not, as many as you will see from Vegas or some of the other teams. Now, if they don't think Sergachev is the type of star that a Hughes is or whoever that Ryan Clark was just talking about, that might make some sense. Or if they feel like there's more parity and keeping them fresh is beneficial, that's a strategy. But those are the types of options you may have and, where you start to reveal some of your personality as a coach.
So I'll be curious to talk to him.
Yeah, very.
Coming up at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. I'm guessing he's not going to be bouncing off the walls enthused, but I am, and I'll tell him this, I'm super impressed that he's coming on the show at 4. In professional sports, getting exclusive radio interviews, let me just say it's easier to book those after wins than it is losses. And there's a lot of people out there in the sports world that will not do interviews after tough losses, and I do admire coaches or players or whatever who will come on and talk about it and do the interview regardless of win or loss. I mean, I've always given a ton of credit to our guy Joe Ingles, who came on the station for 7 years and only missed a few. He came after playoff losses, after brutal losses. He was always there picking up the phone and talking about it. And I always thought that was pretty cool. So stoked the Bears going to be on, but good for him.
Couldn't agree more.
We're going to do a new segment coming up next. This is Ben's baby. He's been digging deep into the
world of crime.
The world of crime.
Yeah.
Ben Anderson, PI. He's been stalking people. He's been in the bushes with his camera.
Just some fun crime stories to talk about.
We'll get to that coming up next. Stay tuned.
Reaction.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
Your home for the best sports radio for your afternoon drive is right here. This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Jake and Ben, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It is Thursday, and we announce every Thursday the Beehive Meals Hero of the Week. Ben, this week's winner, Ryan McGoffin. And he was nominated by his co-coach, Carl Garrett. Carl writes this: Ryan is an amazing coach at Salem Hills High School. He is the assistant head coach for boys basketball and the head track coach. He's loved by all the athletes as he takes the time to teach the respective sports properly, but also takes the time to get to know each athlete on a personal level so he can connect and help them off the field as well. When Salem Hills needed a new track coach, he stepped up even though he didn't have much prior experience, but he did his research and hired a wonderful assistant to help fill the gap. He is a beloved teacher as he teaches leadership principles. He is truly deserving as he works hard to shape the future, one student and athlete at a time. Congratulations, Coach Ryan McGoffin of Salem Hills.
Very cool. I also love the aspect that when you're a high school coach, you're also a teacher, and it's just such a double duty, and it's pretty thankless. So very, very cool. Congratulations, Ryan.
Yeah, that's really cool. I agree. All right, Ben, it's time we're going to do a new segment today, Law and Order, where we take a look at the legal realm. Now, are these sports or just in general?
Can be sports. Doesn't necessarily have to be. But I want to ask you this, Jake.
Okay.
State of California. Let me see if I can find exactly what city this is. Regardless, the department in this city in California has dubbed this crime Operation Bear Claw.
All right.
I want you to guess what you think Operation Bear Claw is about.
A baker.
You're thinking pastry.
I'm thinking that a jilted baker poisoned his ex-wife.
Los Angeles. 3 people in California have been sentenced for insurance fraud in a bizarre scam that involves someone dressed in a bear costume damaging luxury cars.
Wow.
The California Insurance Department said the 3 used a person in a bear suit to stage fake attacks inside of a Rolls-Royce and 2 Mercedes in 2024, then submitted fraudulent claims seeking nearly $142,000 in payouts from an insurance company. 2 Los Angeles area men and a woman pleaded no contest to felony insurance fraud and were sentenced to a weekend jail program.
I got to tell you, I think it's partially brilliant. But in today's day and age with like AI and stuff, can't you recognize the gait of a bear fairly easily? You know what I mean?
The group is accused of providing several videos from the San Bernardino Mountains of a bear moving inside the vehicle to the insurance companies as part of their damage claims. The department said photos provided by the insurance company show what appeared to be scratches on the seats and doors.
Yeah. I think they can get to the bottom of that pretty quick.
It's like the fake Bigfoot videos.
A California Department of Fish and Wildlife biologist reviewed the footage and concluded, quote, it's clearly a human in a bear suit.
No, but it's pretty bold. And I feel like it would have worked in 1988. But I feel like in 2026, you're just not going to get away with that.
After executing a search warrant, detectives found the bear costume in the suspect's home. They didn't even get rid of the bear costume.
Yeah.
You got to ditch the evidence. By the way, I've got the photo here. Not even a particularly convincing bear costume.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't have to. It just has to look like a bear in a fuzzy photo. You know what I mean? But there's just too much. There's just too much technology and stuff out there that you can get away with it.
It's clearly a bear or a human in a bear costume.
This is how dumb you have to be, by the way, to get caught scamming people.
How do these people get Rolls Royces?
Yeah.
Anyways, $142,000.
All right.
They tried to get.
So there you go. Law and Order. Fake bears.
Operation Bear Claw.
I like the baker poisoning his ex-wife better.
Sounds like an old nursery rhyme.
Hey, dear, I baked you up some special bear claws this morning. Just for you.
Speaking of bears.
I want to mend the fence. The Bear, Andre Tourney, the head coach of the Utah Mammoth, is going to join the show. Coming up next, it is the Jake and Ben Show on a Thursday, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now everything's on sale during our Memorial Day event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses for a limited time. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.